All right, let's look at the second eligibility requirement. It's called entitled to file jointly in the year spouse passed away. This may seem a little bit confusing because you might think, well, if the spouse they file jointly, the this requirement sort of seems like a duplicate because they already filed jointly, right? But here's the thing. The word entitled have some hidden meanings in it. So as I said before, entitled means you have the right to do or not to do something, but you have the right. You are entitled. So in fact, this is not a duplication, but rather it includes some hidden scenario. Okay? So of course, if you married or filed jointly, and that year one of the spouse passed away, and then for that year you still can file married filing jointly, and for the consecutive 2 years you can find this specific scenario. Okay, they can file this as if they're still together, right? As long as, of course, qualify this eligibility requirement, they can still enjoy this two spouse like filing jointly benefits. Okay, that's called surviving spouse. Okay, but the entitlement give us some of the story. So for example, I'll still give you the 2023 example. So for example, one of the spouse passed away in 2023. Okay, so say October. Right, and say they live together during that year, but one of the spouse passed away in October. So they live together entire year, and say that all conditions are met, all this usual joint filing stuff, right? All that is met. Just the one of the spouse passed away. But here's the thing. One of the spouse passed away and they did not file jointly at that year. Okay? For some weird reason, okay? In the filing, in the real practice, it's not like textbook example. They file, if it is the most beneficial one, they will do that, right? If they're qualified to do that, they were entitled to do that, they will do that. In practice, it's kind of like complex. So, they can file separately, even though they're entitled to file jointly. They can still, at least maybe it's the thing that already happened at that year, they file separately. Okay? So for example, the client did not know about it. Okay? They think, well, one of the spouse passed away, so you know what? I can't file jointly, maybe, but in fact they can. So for that year, it's a 2023, come on, it's already in the past. So one of the spouse, the surviving spouse, filing separately. For personal reasons. Maybe they forgot, maybe they don't know. And they file that, and of course, 2024. Okay? So they file that, and then, can they still enjoy this surviving spouse benefit? They can. Okay? Of course, you need to, meet all these eligibility requirements. But even though one of the spouse filed separately that year, for any of the personal reasons, doesn't really matter. They filed. Okay, that's the fact. If they filed, I already said, well, that person still, even though you filed separately, you're still entitled to file jointly. Okay? And that's what counts. So basically, for the 2024 and 2025, so basically got 2 consecutive years. So when they file 2025 of the 2024 tax and 2026 to the 2025 tax, you know what? When they file, they're still entitled. The surviving spouse still entitled to file jointly. Okay? It's not like file jointly, but rather you file as the surviving spouse and enjoying the file jointly benefit. Okay? And that's what counts. So basically, It's entitled. You can choose this path. Of course, even though you do not choose it, you're entitled to find joint at the end of the year when spouse passed away. Okay, you still can enjoy that benefit, even though maybe you make some mistake, maybe for some specific reasons you don't want to get involved. You just file your tax, you fulfill your responsibility, but you file it separately. You know what? If you want enjoying this benefit, you can still do that for the consecutive 2 years. Okay, that's the eligibility requirement 2.